meetings we've had recently over the last week or so, those have been getting uploaded into YouTube, and the NACRWare training yesterday has been recorded, and that is getting uploaded into YouTube probably at this moment. So Hannah, I will get that to you, and I know you'll get it posted for everyone. So everyone will have it again if you need to go back and revisit it. Plus, I think you put it into a manual, is that correct? You have like a documentation process, right?
Yeah, and that'll get sent as well as the PowerPoint when we have the recording. Send it all at once, so
right.
Less emails going out.
Great. Okay. So kind of I just want to go over that process again, just so people have an understanding. So the licensing specialists have the list from NACRWare of all of those providers who agreed that they would be emergency childcare. So those are the ones that are, here, let me just pull this up for a second so you can take a look. And hopefully this will work. Just a second here. All right. All right, darn it. Okay, so everyone can see that okay? I just want to let's not look at this, but I just want to go through this process just quickly while we've got Tammy and we're on it, and then we're going to get back into the notes. So the licensing specialists received the list of programs that indicated they're willing to provide emergency care based on the survey, and any that you may have already entered have been talking to and coded emergency child care. They're from NACRWare, so it's what we have, you know, up to date. Yeah.
And can I just jump in? So
yes.
The licensors did get their list. They did make the calls. They're not entering in on the tracker for the R&Rs until the application has been received and approved.
Great. That's good clarification. Yeah, we didn't quite have that yet. So, so they're letting them know about the application. When the application gets back, that's when they will then enter into the form site tracker, which then gets sent to you. So they let the programs know they're approved, and that's when you guys get the information. They are going to ask about staff as well, so we're working on that process as well, which John, if he's on, can speak to it when we get to it. And then this is where they complete the tracking form to update information into NACRWare, so that's when it's submitted to you to actually do the updating in NACRWare, but the form is used for that information. So your roles upon receipt of this information, update the emergency childcare information in NACRWare. If you need to, you can call providers, but that's up to you. You may have enough information to get it in there, but we really want this for 211 to be able to provide those referrals. And also now, if possible, call providers not marked ECC and NACRWare. Are they willing to do that following these current guidelines, which, you know, now we have more clarity on that, so this would be good timing. And then refer them to call their licensing specialist. You could also send them the registration form, which is on the website. So those are things that you can do as you're waiting for this. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to go right now. Any questions, clarifying questions, comments that you want to ask at this point?
The one I have typed in the chat box relates to this, and I hope I didn't just miss this, but what happened, okay, so Friday, there's some significance here, right? So what happens if nobody's heard anything back from the provider by Friday? Do we mark them as temporarily closed? Do we just keep trying to get a hold of them, or what happens at that point?
What I would say from our end, there is no way that we're going to have all of these processed by Friday and approved. There's over 1,000 providers who've indicated that they're still doing care. So I would not do anything Friday. I mean, it's going to take us some time to get through all these.
Okay.
So this is Carrie at 211. We're also getting a lot of calls from providers because I think they're calling everywhere they possibly can to try to get answers. Is it safe for us to then say, please just be patient and wait until next week? They're asking us where else to call, and so I don't want to bog down Office of Child Care's phone lines by sending them your way if they've already submitted their surveys. But they're just like, we're getting a lot of calls from people stressed, wondering what their status is.
I think that's a really good message. If they've submitted their application, let them know that, you know, that there is over 1,000 of them and we're processing them as fast as we can, and they'll hear next week. And they, you know, can continue to operate until they hear one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I ask a
So,
quick question?
Sure.
Sorry, this is Nancy Houtt from Portland Public Schools.
Hi.
And we've been sending families to 211 info, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear. If there is a provider who submitted an application, but the application hasn't yet been approved through the system and processed, how does that look on 211?
Well, if it's not in the child care database. So none of that information gets entered into the child care database until the CCR&Rs enter it. 211 uses the child care database to provide child care referrals. So they're referring what's in there now marked as ECC, which there are many. There's over 1,000. They'll continue to refer those, and then we'll eventually get caught up with what's registered. But we need to continue to refer, and it's happening kind of at the same time. Does that answer your question?
That does. Thank you.
So
Okay,
Margie,
great.
that means that a family might be referred to a program that's marked ECC, but then that program might potentially get turned down to be an emergency provider, and the family would need to find a new program?
I would hope not. Tammy, we kind of have this gap time, but we've got to provide referrals. My understanding, and I'll let Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, is if they're licensed, chances are, and they're willing to do this, chances are pretty good they're going to be approved. If not, there may be some major issue that we wouldn't want them to continue, right? Is that right, Tammy?
Yeah, I mean, without knowing who's applying, I would hope that, 90% of the providers don't have any concerning recent history and will go through just fine. But I don't know. I'm hoping.
Can you, so one of our like primary provider for this care has had a couple of recent valid findings. Can you give us any further information about what would disqualify a program? Because it's going to be night and day for us if that program isn't allowed to do it. So we're curious.
Yeah, so recent valid findings would not be enough. It would be a program that we've had such significant issues that we're doing an increased monitoring on them. So meaning we're going out like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks to make sure that they're still doing what they're supposed to be doing. But, a couple recent valids, unless they were incredibly significant, like they lost children, or they had, significant things are the ones that we do the increased monitoring on. So my guess and my hope is that, most people will go through fine.
So
I have another question.
From the
Go
chat
ahead.
box is whether or not the ECC lists that are getting sent to the licensors are getting updated, because we've still made calls since the list went to licensing.
Yeah, so what we told our staff is prioritize first that list, and then when you're done with that list, call the rest of your caseload. And they are.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I hope this is helping. So Heather, I has just got a call that a single mom is working at home for a hospital but has 2 littles. Can the provider still care for them? So I'm not sure. Did that get clarified, Heather? But it might be worth talking about again.
Heather,
Yeah,
did you
so,
look at
you know,
did you look at the temporary order, Heather? There's actually almost an example exactly like this in the temporary order. Which isn't to say you shouldn't describe it, but it's interesting that you would bring up almost this exact example. So go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, what the order basically says is whenever possible, if at all possible, please keep your children at home to keep them safe and prevent the spread. But if you can't do your job, you can take your children to childcare.
Great, thank you. So Christine, I think we need to talk about this. I'm hoping maybe some of the questions got answered as we went through the registration process, but do you want to talk about what calls your staff are getting?
Yeah, I think a lot of the calls are coming in just saying that they're calling licensors asking for the form, and then some of the licensors are sending them back. And I've been in communication with Catherine, who's our regional, so I know that she knows the process. So I don't know if it's the providers that are getting confused, but they're getting sent back and forth. So I just wanted to make sure that I was really clear. So when we can give them the form, the link to the ECCF form, they fill it out, and then that will go to their licensor eventually, and then we'll come back to some part of the R&R system to upload, whether that's with the mass upload or individually. Is that all correct?
From my perspective, yes. And I'm glad you reached out to Catherine because I know she's doing a huddle twice a day with her staff. So if there's any confusion, she can get that cleared up.
Okay, I think I'll just work with Catherine directly then. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything because there was just a significant amount of calls this morning about it.
Okay, yeah, please do.
Okay, thank you.
And the licensor will let them know that they're approved?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So Toby, when you're saying the link is that the Small Business Development Centers? Is that what you're referring to? It doesn't work?
On the letter, when you click on that link, it says this is broken. I tried it several
yeah,
times.
this is Lisa, and I just tried it as well, and it's not working.
I will, I'll let Melanie and Katie know. This is Joan. I'll do that right now.
Thank you. Danae is asking, will each CCR&R get a list of approved ECC programs for each county? Or do we have to wait until the updates are in NACRA and query the list?
So Margie, I mean, I think the answer to that is via the tracker, we're going to let them know individual sites at a time.
Okay.
I don't really know the process on the R&R side, so I would have to defer to you to think through what that means for them.
Yeah, it's and so Danae, you'll definitely be doing referrals from NACRAware, so you would need to query the list, but needing it before Monday. I'm not sure how that can all work. I think let's kind of put a hold on to that question and kind of see how that might work as far as what we might be able to do kind of ahead of time, because you'll be getting those form sites to enter the information, but you're saying if you're starting to get a flood of calls on Monday because spring break will be over, and that would probably be the same for 211. So let's just kind of hold on to that.
Margie, I think my new question is rather, are the CCR&Rs now responsible for creating a master list for each county now that we're getting individual approvals? Because I asked this question a long time ago before it was answered. And now it's been answered. But I think my new question now is, are we, going to be compiling that list? Is that a task for us to be doing now? And it sounds like the answer is yes, that there's not going to be a master list somewhere.
Right. You would have to, you would compile it, but my hope would be that people would continue to call 211 and get those lists, that was the place they would go, and that you would just be responding to referrals based on No Wrong Door. But I also understand that your hospital, for example, may call you and say, give us a list, and then you would send that, you know, from NACRAWare. I do understand that.
And the master list is in NACRAWare, so it'll be under that emergency type of childcare, and then you would just go by your counter. So,
right, but the people who are listed in there right now haven't been approved. So that list may not be accurate if we just query the data right now. That's why I was asking originally if we needed to wait until those updates were put in on who was approved. But it sounds like now we are the ones updating that. So I wanted some clarification around what our role as the CCR&R is. But I think I understand now. Thank you.
Okay. And knowing that there's this you know, chances are really good that those in NACRAWare right now who are offering to be ECCs based on the survey results will most likely be approved. And we've just got a gap time right now and have to kind of do the best we can with that. So, okay, Eva, we are getting questions about monitoring and how this will happen and for what program types licensed in school districts too. Good question. Tammy, all yours. Tammy, are you still there? We didn't lose you. Or Dawn?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was muted because my dog is quite sure I'm home for her. So she keeps moaning, wanting attention. Sorry about that. So
That's
in
okay.
terms of monitoring, so there's kind of 3 different categories of emergency childcare right now. One is the work that the school districts are doing, and that's ran by the school districts, and we're not doing any oversight on that. But they did have to submit the application so that we would know that they were existing. But when they're ran by the school district does the oversight. The second type is what we're calling kind of the pop-up childcare. Like we have OHSU that's reached out to a childcare center to do childcare at OHU for them. So that application, when that comes in, we are doing a health and safety visit, and that visit will be virtual because we're really wanting to slow the spread and not be part of the contributing spread of the disease. So we're going to do that visit virtual. And then for licensed childcare who get approved to do emergency care, you know, any visits that we're doing, unless we have really significant concerns of child health and safety, anything we're doing virtual with them. And so if we do get a complaint that one of these emergency places is not providing a safe environment, basically what we have set up now is staff it on a case-by-case basis and figure out if we're going to go out in person or how we're going to handle it based on what the stated concerns are and who the reporting party was and all that.
Thank you.
Could I ask a follow-up question to that? I'm just thinking about school districts that might be opening emergency care for 0 to 3-year-olds. Is there no oversight for them or guidance from them, or how is that supposed to happen if it's not their usual wheelhouse?
And Joan might have more understanding. I don't know if Gwen or anyone from Gwen's team is on the phone. That's kind of the other side of the shop. And my understanding, if I remember from looking at the materials, which was a few days ago and the materials might have been updated, it indicated that if they were caring for younger children that is not their normal business, that they, and I don't know if it was encouraged or required to partner with somebody who does have experience in that age group. But in terms of the oversight of those, I would have to defer to Gwen Bechtel, who I don't know that anyone from her team is on the call.
So this is
I think we'll have to, oh, go ahead, sorry.
This is Karen Hinkemeyer, Washington County, and the superintendents, we have one superintendent and school district that is doing that, but many of them are confused and looking to the CCR&Rs for support. I don't have the bandwidth, and nor does my team, to do the heavy lift of helping them orient to how to do early childcare. So they need some support on an ELD state level because I can't do it.
Karen, they are receiving quite a lot of support on the ELD state level, which I can talk a little bit about. We have a team of people that are working closely with COSA and many superintendent representatives and the governor's office. We do say in the toolkit that they can consult with you all because you all are a consultation providing entity for childcare. So they're not calling you erroneously. We are telling them they can consult with you. So I think we want to pursue offline what kind of supports would you need to be able to answer some particular questions from the school district. I guess, Eva, what I would say is the toolkit that is on our website is intended for schools operating birth to 5 programs. Our belief is that that should be guiding the choices that folks are making. But because we don't regulate school settings, as you know, ELD is not allowed to do that. We're really relying on the school district's expertise, the fact that they're covered under the temporary order. They have to follow the OHA guidelines, like ticking down the list. I'm not going to do it all. Like they have to do all those things. And we're presuming that for the period of time that they're operating, that they will be following all those things. Like that is under the aegis of the district to be responsible for the operations of the childcare and making sure that it is going well. And I think if districts have specific questions about that, they should be contacting ODE and the point of contact that's listed for the Department of Education.
And I have a quick clarification on that. This is Nancy again from PPS. We have one site for hospital staff and emergency responders in Southwest, and we are working in a partnership with a licensed child care provider who is managing all of that. And so in that situation, monitoring is handled by licensing, not by the district, correct?
Nancy, I'm just wondering how did you get on this call for our ELD contractors? I'm just wondering how you got this information.
I was invited.
I invited her to this call because we've been having conversations with both 211 and Nancy trying to figure out how to manage the contracts that they're doing.
Okay, I just didn't quite understand how that connection happened. So I'm sorry. Nancy, can you ask your question again?
Yes.
I was just startled.
No, I'm sorry. I should have introduced myself a little more clearly. I am just curious about the model that we have going, and it's a 2-tier model. First tier is that we rely on the community child care providers to support our parents and folks who need child care. And then the second tier is if that's not sufficient, then we will stand up a program in a school.
Sure.
We do have one school that has child care provider provided by Champions near OHSU, and it's serving, medical folks who are hospital workers. In that situation, since it's a licensed child care provider, the folks who would be monitoring it would be the licensing division, correct? Because it's not PPS staff.
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And so I just want to recap here. So kind of getting back to maybe Karen, what you were talking about in the bandwidth, and then Eva asking how do we, what's happening to navigate the infant toddler care inside schools if they don't necessarily have the knowledge and resources and ability to do that. So Nancy, what you just described was an example of that. It's where, and this is where the CCR rules come in really well, and that is how you connect the school with an early childhood or a child care provider who is caring for infant toddler and is open for emergency child care. And that could be the connection to support infant toddler children. So that's just an example. And I think, Dawn, you and I talked about another example possibly being set up in Marion County that is a similar kind of thing, where it's an infant, toddler, and preschool that's connected to the school district, not in the school district, but it's one of the mixed delivery nearby. Is that correct? We talked about that? Or was it a dream I had last night?
No, it's similar. It's the Community Action is doing the infant toddler care, and then the Community Action Head Start is doing infant toddlers, and then another Salvation Army Kroc Center is doing the other side of the care. So they're partnering in that way.
Okay. I hope that helps, Eva. Okay, and Karen, but we can talk offline too, you know, as far as bandwidths and resources. So, okay, Sarah Snow, our staff has been asked by providers if they could become an exempt provider during this time instead of submitting ECC application. What guidance should we give to our staff when they get this question? So Tammy,
they would have
or
to,
Joan.
Yeah, they would have to actually close their license. If they're going to continue doing any sort of care, they do have to submit the emergency application. They don't have to accept more children. I mean, they can just stay with their current group of children, but if they're wanting to not submit the application, then they would need to close their license and drop down to 3 or fewer.
Thank you. So, Mary, do you want to recap your question? I'm not sure what that's connecting to.
So we know that there are programs that are offering care like the Y, which we've entered, and schools or hospitals. Are they submitting? All of them are supposed to be submitting and will be in the database. Is that the way that we are finding out about them, and 211 will be able to give the information to parents who call?
Well, the Y is not licensed. Is that correct?
Correct.
There are some that are.
It was an after school.
Yeah. So real quick on the Y, there are some that are still licensed and some that are not. So those that are not licensed would need to go through the pop-up process for the unlicensed programs. And those are not ones that we're entering into the tracker to send over to you guys. The only ones that we're sending over to you guys are the licensed programs.
So how would a parent find out about those programs?
So so I know the Y in Jackson, Josephine, they're already in the NACRAWare database.
Right.
Yeah, you entered them. And we did that right away when this all started coming out, just to make sure we could get that word out. So now what's happening is, so that kind of gets to where we were going to go with the school, but I know we're getting close. I think we have about 20 minutes left or 15 minutes left. But so those unlicensed or license exempt, I should say, such as the pop-ups that Tammy was just describing, and that includes the school districts. We are also working out a form site process for that to get to all of you. So you will be needing to enter that into NACRAWare. So that too will be happening. Now this morning, Christine sent me an email saying that Portland Public Schools, one of the sites is going to open up not just to a hospital, but to other parents who need of essential worker, other children of essential workers needing it. So I sent her the registration form so she could go ahead and get that into NACRAWare database as soon as possible so they could be referred. So that's the process we're working out now to kind of get that pathway smooth, like we've done with the licensed group. License application.
I mean, my concern was just parents should have one place they can call and all the options are available.
Right.
Okay. Can I ask another question real quick, kind of related to this? So I think what I hear you saying is that the site form is still being created for entering basically school districts. Start with that. Is that right?
Well, it is. However, I am bypassing that when I know because I'm with that team. So I'm on that team talking about school districts. So not that I have any power at all or anything, but I know where those registration forms are. And
Okay.
if I do know a school district is open and open to the community, please let me know, and I will check with the team and say, is it okay to send this over and get it in Macroware? So that's what we'll do for as kind of this gap time until we get the form site set up for that. So you would get it one way or the other.
Okay, because I've been like chasing this down pretty hard, and I finally got connected. Our ESD is connecting with public health, and they've got this whole big operation going. And I think I got connected to the person who they tell me has information on 16 sites, so that's going to be in different districts too. So I've made the outreach, so I want to make sure I can follow up and actually, be ready to take information from them. So we can do that then, Margie, if I just get a form from you, basically.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And do we have copies of the forms that they'll need if we can, so we can share with a, potential provider that might call us and say, well, this is what you need.
It's on the website. I would really, if you have not gone onto our COVID-19 website, go to Emergency Child Care tab and just scroll through there. You'll see the registration form. It's actually the same across the board. So I believe, unless that changed last night, Tammy, the registration form for whether it's a pop-up licensed or school district.
It's one form. It's one form for all kinds of emergency care. And I think somebody messaged during this call that the date at the bottom of the form hadn't been updated, and I got that taken care of on the call. So it's the most current form is on the website, available to be downloaded.
This is Jenna. I just wanted to say that on the website for unlicensed care, it says forms to be updated soon or something. So under that tab, it is not obvious that that's what they should be doing at all. So if we're sending them there, that might need to be updated.
We're
literally like the fingers are on the keyboard to finalize those materials. So it isn't that they're far from being done. They're just, and I think you all realize that everything we're issuing that pertains to operations has to be vetted by OHA. So we're also in the queue with them.
So it's happening as fast as we can. So if you can send those, that would be great. I'm wondering at this point, given it's 11 o'clock, we do have a couple of rather urgent things we want to touch base on. I do want to say if we don't get to these, we do have the chat log, and I'm actually working on pulling questions out and getting those into our FAQ queue, and then being able to get answers to you over the last week in these meetings. So I would like to just maybe put a hold on the chat box at this point and invite Denise, if you're still on, to talk about the supply order process and where we are with that, supplies for providers offering emergency child care.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Denise Swanson here. So just a quick update on what's happening. We are expecting the first round of supplies to land today. We're in the process of figuring out the best way to get the information out to the emergency providers and the ordering process that will allow us to get supplies to those who need them, but also to make sure we have enough supplies to equitably distribute to everyone over the period of time that we're going to need. So we will let you know what that looks like in the next day or so in writing. And one of the things that is probably will involve all of you to a greater extent is how we will be working with registered family care, who also will have the ability to get the supplies. We don't want to necessarily directly market to them, and we're kind of thinking of them as more of a tier 2 after we get the first provider set up. Our thought is that because you're all in contact with registered family care providers, that perhaps what we would do is, if you're getting requests from them for supplies, that the CCR&R would put an order in to us, and then we would just ship the items either to you or to the hub or wherever we can determine with each of you the right places for registered family providers to pick up items as well. And the reason for this is because the way that the supplies are going to come in are going to be in pretty significant amounts. So, you know, if somebody orders a package of, you know, plastic spoons, there's going to be 500 spoons in the package. And we know that somebody who's only caring for 2 children probably isn't going to need that kind of supply. We want to make sure somebody that is caring for more children, has more classrooms, has access to those supplies as well. So this is still in process. We hope to have it all figured out and ready to launch this week as soon as we're aware of what's coming in first. We believe the first things are going to be tissues and toilet paper, and then we'll go from there. But that's where we are at. And as I say on a daily basis, I'm happy to give updates on where things are landing.
So Denise, everybody, I just want to thank you for that. And I just want to clarify, Denise is speaking of our regulated subsidy providers, those that are
thank you.
So just for that clarification,
Thanks, Margie.
I wanted to make sure you.
I don't know all the terminology.
I know. I spent a lot of time with her and I quiz her on it, but she just doesn't seem to get it.
Yep, nope, not my thing. So again, we're happy to take suggestions and or ideas from you guys on how best to do that piece. But I think what'll be good is that we can direct ship to most providers, and that's going to be awesome and very time saving for all of us.
Okay, more on that to come. Thank you, Denise. And then Ronnie is got a really exciting thing going that she is going to talk to us about. Are you still there, Ronnie? I see your camera's paused. No, I guess she stepped away for a minute. Okay, so while we're waiting for Ronnie, let's go to John, because I see he's on now. John, would you talk to us about supplies? Not supplies, I'm sorry, substitutes, nannies, and staff. Thank you.
Sure, I am super prepared for this. So where we're at right now with the substitute pool is that we are getting quite a bit of submissions of early educators that are in our system that are interested in being mobilized to participate in these emergency childcare facilities that are going to continue doing work. And so we have about, well, this was yesterday's info, but it was about 450 people that had completed that survey around the state. And they were started at TRI, they were starting to do the verification process to make sure everybody had a criminal background registry that was current and that they had the basic training levels that were necessary. And Robin has put key people on that verification process, so that should be really ramping up today to where they'll have a majority of those people either approved or moving back to contacting them again to see if there's anything else they need to do in order to meet those minimum qualifications to then be mobilized. And then the other part that we're trying to really do is figure out the best process to connect as emergency child care facilities are approved at the Office of Child Care side, and as that information is being sent to you guys, what we really want to do is get a link to them so that they know to contact TRI for any of their staffing needs if they are truly needing some subs or some emergency personnel to keep caring for kids that are on that priorities list. And so that information hopefully will go out as people are approved. We will also be able to get you information as you're interacting with or updating files with the emergency facilities so that they know where they can go to get subs and get connected there. and where they can go for those supplies and resources if they seem to have missed that correspondence on the front end. But I think there was another component. Oh, I think that Robin and their team there at TRI, and if anybody's on here, well, Robin's on here, they were going to potentially give you guys a link to, and may have already given you a link to, the spreadsheet that they're collecting information from emergency childcare facilities that are in need of staff. So they've kind of got a list of criteria that they're collecting just so they know, do you need people who are experienced with serving infants and toddlers or preschool age or school age, and how many staff do you need in this area? And you're just sort of collecting that bit of information so that that link up can be made, and you could enter as you're, we know people are coming at us from all sides. They're not reading all of the information and going, oh, look, I should call this friendly centralized number over here at the CCR&R helpline and get my needs met. They're calling everybody. So the more people who have access to this stuff and can start to make that link up would be good. So I'll pause there. Robin, correct me on all the things I said that were wrong, and then we can move on.
No, that was good. I would just say now I don't have to write quite as much of an explanatory email with the link that I'll be sending, so it'll come out a little bit faster to start collecting those. If you're getting calls like, I need subs, we'll get them on the list so that when we can start connecting them, they'll be on the list for us to give a call and say, here's 3 people who expressed interest in your area, those kinds of things. So I should be able to get that out pretty soon after this meeting before my next one. So that'll be in your inbox fairly soon.
And we have a flow chart on just sort of how the people sort of get connected in and then mobilized. It's kind of helpful. We can forward that to you too, because we know you guys are getting hit with all kinds of processes and wondering how it goes from point A to point B, or it's probably not a linear process at all. So these flowcharts help a little bit.
John, I wonder if there's a list of the minimum trainings that are needed for people to be subs and staff. I've been asked for it a couple times, and just thinking that a list with links to online spaces would be really helpful.
So
I think that's where we
go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I want to hear your answer. It might be better.
Mine? No. Are you kidding?
Okay.
I was going to say that this might be a good time for Ronnie, but go ahead. You go ahead, and then we'll get Ronnie on to talk about training.
Yeah, Ronnie definitely has some of these components, but we were sending links from the emergency sub side as people were signing up. There's a reply that goes to them so that they can ensure that they know what all those things are, but I'll let Ronnie speak to exactly which trainings are sort of mandatory.
This is Ronnie.
You're on, Ronnie.
And hi guys. This is Ronnie, and I don't know the answer to that fully. I know that there is a document that had gone out for emergency care, and it had talked about some of the primary trainings, and I wanted to track down and see if that had changed, and I don't think it has, but we'll make sure we get that document out to you, and it had links to the training. And the other thing that we needed to talk about was, and I heard in the beginning that you had requested a consistent time to have these meetings as they happen ad hocly. Is that a verb? Ad hocly? So the OCCD team with the oral training calendar, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the protocols for for those of you who have hybrid CPR first aid trainings, because of that process of approving an online only is really different for us to do, and about how that might look for the early educators that sign up with you through the calendar. If your site if you as a CCR&R don't operate a hybrid
first aid CPR training, then just tell the individuals in your area. We'll make sure that you have a document too. We dug up a number of, I think it was about 4 CPR first aid online companies that operate statewide. So we found some really great ones in different regions, but like the American Red Cross is one that will operate in as far as just the online only portions. So we'll make sure that you get those documents as well. And we'll send that out. We're going to go ahead and send out an appointment today. You'll have an agenda, and you'll also have the draft of the protocol document. So after we have our conversation, that might change a little bit, and we wanted to make sure we left space for that. And we'll also send out those documents that are going out. So, so I'm seeing some things about Spanish. We did find, with the help of Joan, had given us, we found one Spanish online company that offered an online CPR first aid in Spanish for adult child. So we were able to also add that. So I'll make sure you get that document as well. Okay. But we weren't able to find any other ones that had other languages. The individuals, if they need it and aren't able to get it and they have a barrier for some reason, they can work with their licensing specialist for that exception process during this time. So I'm going to go ahead and send the appointment as soon as this call is over. And I'm sorry, the time we had picked was for 1 o'clock. We were hoping that maybe we hit nap time for those of you with littles. I think that was a consideration for those of you who had that. So if that doesn't work, I'm sure that Margie and her team will make sure that they try to work on more consistent times. Oh, the nap time wasn't for you adults. I hope you're not confused by that. It was not for any of you. It was for your littles. Okay.
That will never happen again. So I do want to, so we're coming to a close. There are questions we will, I'm going to be working frantically on with everyone to try and get more answers to you. I do want to touch base on one thing that I think is really important. So I know, and I've been hearing that people are calling 211 and they're getting stuck in waiting for an hour, hour and a half, and maybe not getting through. We went through this. We went through this many times in the beginning of 211 taking on referrals, that it's important that people listen for the child care prompt. And the prompt is different around the state based on the way the 211 system is set up. So often what has happened and what was happening in the past, and we tried to resolve that by changing the message, and people will get, if they don't wait for the child care prompt, they get into the general line, the 211 community service line, which does not have a place to leave a message, and you end up getting stuck. So we, Carrie worked with their vendor and changed their outgoing message so that what happens is people now hear, you have to press in your zip code, so you end up in the 211 in Oregon, otherwise you could end up in another state. And then there's a message about pesticides. And then the very next message after that is, if you're looking for childcare, please press. And then there's the number. So if you would tell
Margie,
your partners, yeah?
Hey, Margie, can I clarify what it does? Because they changed it
Sure,
yesterday.
yes, please. Oh,
So,
yes, I did hear that.
Yeah, you'll call 211 and then it will ask you for your zip code. It figures out whether or not you're in Oregon or Washington. And if you're in Oregon, you hear a message first regarding COVID or coronavirus, because we are the hotline for questions about coronavirus. And when people select that one, which is what almost everyone is selecting, there is a message then that says, if you are calling for childcare during COVID-19, press this button, and then they can call to, if they're an essential worker or an emergency responder, they'll get right through to us. There's also still our regular option, if they continue listening through the IVR message, to also just listen for the child care prompt and get through to us. So they can get through 2 different ways.
Thank you, Carrie. I didn't realize that changed. I listened to it yesterday morning, so it's changed since then. That's even more clear than what it was. So most people are calling for childcare. Yeah, most people are calling for childcare because of COVID-19 right now. I mean, when we look at the Carrie's team has been tracking the callers, the occupations, and they're almost all, in fact, they're all essential workers except for childcare providers. So, so the process is right here. Listen for the prompt for childcare. So if you just encourage people to please do that, although it sounds like it's even simpler, which is great. And then also, I know there's questions about the need. So I think what we want to do is find ways. I know the hospitals have done surveys to find out needs for childcare. A few others have as well. So I want to find where that all the data are for that and get that to you. We can also probably find it through Macroware. I don't as well, but I know this started out kind of slow because of spring break. Although I saw, Carrie, your numbers are starting to really multiply. I saw that last night, so I can see it's going to be exponential here pretty soon. So we will try and get all of that. All right, it's 3 minutes after our closing time. Thank you for staying on. Please continue to send questions, and we will continue to do our best. And yes, Christine, we're going to do a CPR call. Ronnie's going to set that up. So, all right, thanks everyone. Really appreciate your time.
Thank
and we'll
you,
set
everyone.
up something consistent.
Very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.